Thoughts on the readings for January 13th, Genesis 24, Psalms 29 and 30 and Matthew 15. In Genesis 24, an old and faithful Abraham sends his faithful steward Eliezer to Haran in search of a lifelong covenant wife for his son, Isaac. Eliezer is bound by a covenant Abraham makes with him to diligently fulfill the obligation of finding a true believer, who will be a helpmeet for Isaac on the journey to God's kingdom. So Eliezer left Abraham accompanied by a large retinue of servants and many camels, and vast wealthy gifts. Upon arrival in Haran, Eliezer makes his responsibilities a matter of prayer and asks of the Almighty a very specific sign. No sooner had he finished his prayer than Rebekah arrives and says the very words of his prayer. Eliezer is amazed at the power of his God and bows his head in reverence. The 10 camels are watered by Rebekah, an immense task, and the company taken to Laban's house, where Laban notices the wealthy jewels given to Rebekah by Eliezer. Laban's words, "Come in, thou blessed of Yahweh," indicates both some knowledge of God and the familiar use of the Lord's divine name of Yahweh, the use of which goes back to the beginning of creation, Genesis 4 verses 1, 25 and 26. Rebekah had reported the circumstances of meeting Eliezer prior to Laban's remarks. From verses 31 and 49, Eliezer tells Laban of the mission he has undertaken and its importance. Note, it is not just another task Eliezer was given, but the entrusted responsibility of securing a bride who will ensure the faithful continuance of maintaining the truth promised to Abraham and his seed. In verse 51, Laban asserts his agreement with Rebekah going to the household of Abraham. Once again, Eliezer responds to his sovereign reverently. Many valuable gifts were given to Laban, by way of a bride price. After all of this has happened, Rebekah's thoughts are requested. She assented and is sent away the next day with her family's blessing. Isaac went out in the evening to pray, meditate, verse 63, and after her inquiry as to the man leading the homecoming troop, Rebekah shows Isaac respect and is taken into Isaac's tent as his God-chosen bride. And Isaac loved Rebekah dearly. Psalm 29 ascribed to Yahweh the glory and majesty due to his awesome name. The powerful and frightening displays in nature are attributed to the voice of Yahweh. This is of course consistent with what Genesis 1 said, Yahweh spake, and it was done, i.e. it came into being. All things exist and are maintained and sustained by the word of Yahweh. What magnificent poetic language the psalm sets before us. Verse 6, for example, describes figuratively an earthquake. The psalm concludes with Yahweh enthroned in the heavens exercising dominion over all his creation. The voice of Yahweh is used in this psalm 7 times and is perhaps symbolic of the 7 thunders in Revelation 10 verse 4. Praise and extol his name for this. Psalm 30 is a psalm focusing on the joy the Almighty can bring to his children. This can be true even when our foes rise against us bringing despair. Jesus found the same at the time of his greatest extremity, and encouraged his disciples with the same message. Compare with John 14 verses 1 to 3 and 27 to 29. Despite being downtrodden, the psalmist finds the joy and support from his sovereign uplifting. God will never forsake his children, Hebrews 13 verse 5 and 6. In him, even to some extent in our present life, our mourning can become dancing, and our sackcloth exchanged for clothes of joy. This will be so much more the case when the kingdom of our Lord Jesus Christ arrives and the clothing of our mortal sorrow is swapped for joyful immortal life. Slowly read aloud Psalm 45 verse 7 and 8 and deeply reflect on those words. Matthew 15 described the lengths to which Jewish tradition could be taken to subvert divine precepts and the word of the Lord. The fifth commandment, described as the first with promise, Ephesians 6 verses 1 to 3, was bypassed by a legal ruse known as korban. It allowed the wealthy to avoid all responsibility to parents by declaring by oath that an individual's entire wealth belonged to God, whilst, at the same time, ensuring unfettered access to all of it. Just like the times of Jeremiah, we have mere lip service substituted for the truth demanded by our sovereign. Next follows a discussion on the true source of defiling people's corrupt minds, not any external thing. These matters revealed Pharisaism as an example of the blind leadership of the blind. The faith of the Canaanite woman, whose daughter Jesus healed, was astonishing and, like the Roman centurion of Matthew 8, caused our Lord to marvel. She acknowledged that privilege rightly rested upon the covenant people of Israel, and that all she requested were the crumbs that fell from the table. Jesus performed many miracles upon these Gentile subjects, causing them to ascribe praise to the God of Israel. Lastly, the chapter tells that he fed 4,000 of them despite his own apostles' reticence to show any compassion after all these were Gentile dogs. But our Lord never shared such prejudices. Rather, he was always expansive in his love of all and freely distributed the gospel's bounties.